The cosmos, once a seamless expanse where the divine, the mortal, and the monstrous intertwined, was no longer whole. The scars of the great battle between Marduk and Tiamat had left the universe fractured, its very fabric strained by the collision of powers too vast for a single reality to contain. In the aftermath of the conflict, the divine realm stood victorious but not unscathed, and Marduk, the supreme god, was left to contemplate the future of existence. The divine realm, though still a beacon of light and order, bore the marks of the war that had ravaged it. The gods, having rebuilt much of what had been lost, now faced the sobering reality that the threat of Tiamat and her allies could never be entirely vanquished. Tiamat's wrath was eternal, her desire for vengeance unquenchable. Marduk knew that as long as the cosmos remained a single, unified expanse, the danger would persist, a danger not only to the gods, but to all creation. Marduk stood on the highest peak of his celestial palace, his gaze sweeping across the heavens. The stars, once steady and bright, now flickered with an uneasy energy, as if they, too, sensed the tension that gripped the universe. The victory over Tiamat had come at a cost, and the cosmos, once whole, was now a fractured thing, teetering on the edge of chaos. Marduk knew that the time had come for a decision, one that would change the course of existence forever. The dividing of the worlds. In the vast expanse of the divine realm, Marduk summoned the full extent of his power. The cosmos trembled as the supreme god reached deep into the very essence of creation, his will shaping the future of the universe. The power he wielded was immense, a force that could bend reality itself, and with it, Marduk began the process of division, a great and terrible act that would forever separate the worlds. The first world to be forged was the divine realm itself, an expanse of light and order where the gods would reign supreme. Here, Marduk's authority would be absolute, his rule unchallenged by the forces of chaos. The divine realm would be a sanctuary, a place of peace and stability, protected from the darkness that lurked beyond its borders. But Marduk knew that peace in the divine realm alone was not enough. The mortal world, the world of humans, needed protection as well. The humans, fragile and fleeting, were vulnerable to the influences of the other races, to the chaos that Tiamat embodied. And so, Marduk created a second world, a world of mortal flesh and blood, where the humans would live, free from the interference of the gods and the monstrous beings that had once roamed alongside them. Yet the act of division did not stop there. Marduk, knowing that Tiamat's power was vast and that her hatred for the divine realm was unending, created a third world, a world of shadow and flame, a realm of darkness where Tiamat would be cast down, her power contained, her reach limited. This world, which would come to be known as the Underworld, was a place of eternal night, where the spirits of the dead would wander, and where Tiamat would rule, far from the light of the divine realm. The cosmos was no longer a single, unified expanse. It was now a collection of separate worlds, each one a fortress unto itself, isolated by the vast chasms of space and time that Marduk had carved between them. The divine realm, the mortal world, and the underworld, three distinct realities, each governed by its own laws, each protected from the other by the will of Marduk. But even as Marduk's power reshaped the cosmos, he knew that the act of division was not without consequence. The rift between the worlds was not absolute, and in the moment of separation, a fracture occurred, a rift through which some of the ancient beings, those who had once walked alongside the gods and the monsters, managed to slip. The Great Escape. In the darkness of the underworld, Tiamat seethed with fury. She had been cast down, her power constrained by the boundaries of the new world that Marduk had created. The underworld was a place of torment, a realm of shadows where the light of the divine realm could not reach. It was a prison, designed to contain her wrath, to keep her from unleashing her vengeance upon the cosmos. But Tiamat was not so easily defeated. As Marduk's power divided the worlds, Tiamat reached out with her own dark will, searching for a way to escape the prison that had been built around her. Her hatred for Marduk burned brighter than ever, a flame that could not be extinguished, and she knew that as long as she lived, there was hope of revenge. In the moment of division, as the cosmos was torn apart, Tiamat found her opportunity. She sensed the fracture, the rift that had formed between the worlds, and she reached out with all her power, pulling at the edges of the rift, widening it just enough for her to drag some of her allies through. It was a desperate act, fueled by a hatred that could not be contained, and it worked. From the underworld, Tiamat dragged the demon race, pulling them through the rift and into the human world. The demons, beings of darkness and chaos, were her most loyal followers, and she knew that they would sow fear and destruction wherever they went. But they were not the only ones to escape. Some of the giants, the ancient beings of stone and strength, followed Tiamat through the rift, as did a few of the dragons, their scales gleaming with the fire of their ancient wrath. Monsters of all shapes and sizes slipped through the fracture, their forms twisted by the chaos that had birthed them. Even some of the witches, those beings of dark magic who had once walked the line between the mortal and the divine, managed to escape the confines of their new world. As the rift began to close, sealing the worlds off from one another, Tiamat herself attempted to escape, but the effort had drained her, and she was forced to retreat back into the depths of the underworld, her hatred for Marduk burning hotter than ever. She had lost much, but she had not lost everything. The demons, giants, dragons, monsters, and witches who had escaped would continue her work in the human world, sowing the seeds of chaos and destruction that she could no longer unleash directly. The birth of heaven and hell. The cosmos, now divided into separate worlds, began to settle into a new order. The divine realm, now isolated from the other worlds, became a place of light and peace, a sanctuary where the gods could rule without fear of invasion. Marduk, from his throne, watched over the cosmos with a keen eye, knowing that the division he had wrought was necessary but imperfect. The rift that had allowed some of Tiamat's followers to escape was a flaw, a crack in the foundation of the new order, and Marduk knew that it would be a source of trouble in the ages to come. The human world, where the escaped beings now roamed, was a place of confusion and fear. The humans, unaware of the cosmic battle that had reshaped their reality, lived their lives in ignorance, unaware that the world they inhabited was no longer the same. The demons, giants, dragons, monsters, and witches who had escaped into the human world began to exert their influence, spreading fear and chaos wherever they went. The humans, though unaware of the true nature of these beings, could sense their presence, and the world began to darken under their influence. But Marduk had not abandoned the human world. Though he could no longer directly intervene, he had placed safeguards within the fabric of reality, protections that would limit the influence of Tiamat's followers. The gods, though isolated in their own realm, would still watch over the humans, guiding them through visions, dreams, and omens. And so, the humans began to worship the gods, offering prayers and sacrifices in exchange for protection from the forces of darkness that now roamed their world. In the underworld, Tiamat brooded, her power constrained but not extinguished. She had lost the battle for the cosmos, but she had not lost her will to fight. The underworld, now a realm of shadows and despair, became her domain, a place where the spirits of the dead wandered in endless torment, where the flames of her hatred burned without end. The demons who had remained with her became her servants, carrying out her will in the depths of the underworld, preparing for the day when she could strike back at Marduk and the divine realm. Thus, heaven and hell were born from the ashes of the great battle. The divine realm, ruled by Marduk, became a place of light and order, a sanctuary where the gods could reign in peace. The underworld, ruled by Tiamat, became a place of darkness and chaos, a prison where the forces of destruction were contained but not defeated. The human world, caught between these two extremes, became a battleground, a place where the influence of both heaven and hell could be felt, where the forces of light and darkness would wage an eternal struggle for control. The eternal struggle. As the cosmos settled into its new order, the influence of heaven and hell began to shape the destiny of the human world. The gods, from their sanctuary in the divine realm, watched over the humans, guiding them through visions and omens, offering protection and blessings in exchange for worship and devotion. The humans, unaware of the true nature of the gods, began to build temples and altars, offering prayers and sacrifices in the hopes of gaining favor. But the influence of Tiamat and her followers was also felt. The demons, giants, dragons, monsters, and witches who had escaped into the human world began to exert their influence, spreading fear and chaos wherever they went. The humans, though unaware of the true nature of these beings, could sense their presence, and the world began to darken under their influence. Wars broke out, kingdoms fell, and the land was ravaged by storms, plagues, and disasters that the humans could not explain. The rift that had allowed Tiamat's followers to escape remained a source of instability, a crack in the foundation of the new order that Marduk had created. Though the worlds were now separate, the rift allowed the influence of hell to seep into the human world, corrupting the hearts and minds of men, turning them against one another, and sowing the seeds of discord and destruction. Marduk, from his throne in the divine realm, watched the unfolding struggle with a heavy heart. He knew that the division he had wrought was necessary to protect the cosmos from the full force of Tiamat's wrath, but he also knew that it had not solved the problem entirely. The rift remained, and as long as it existed, the influence of Tiamat and her followers would continue to plague the human world. But Marduk was not without hope. He knew that the struggle between heaven and hell, between light and darkness, was an eternal one, a battle that would be fought not with swords and spears, but with the hearts and minds of men. The humans, though fragile and fleeting, were also capable of great things, of love, compassion, and courage. And it was in these qualities that Marduk placed his hope, knowing that as long as there was light in the hearts of men, the forces of darkness could never fully triumph. The birth of Ira, the dark flame. In the vastness of the divine realm, where the stars flickered like ancient memories and the heavens stretched into infinity, Marduk stood alone, lost in contemplation. The victory over Tiamat had brought with it the realization that even in triumph, the cosmos was fraught with imbalance. The weak, whether they were gods or mortals, were always at the mercy of the powerful. And now, with the worlds divided and the influence of darkness ever present, Marduk knew he needed to create someone who could protect the weak, something that was neither god nor human but possessed the strength of both. Marduk's thoughts returned to the fire that had aided him in his battle against Tiamat, the dark flame blaze, a force so fierce and untamed that it had consumed all in its path. It was a power beyond the reckoning of gods or men, and yet, it was also a power that had saved the divine realm from utter destruction. Marduk knew that this fire held the key to what he needed to create, but it could not exist in its raw form. The dark flame blaze, unrestrained, was too dangerous, too unpredictable. It needed balance, something to temper its fury and harness its strength. And so, Marduk made a decision. He would combine the dark flame blaze with an element that could counterbalance its ferocity, an element as ancient and powerful as the flame itself. Marduk thought of the highest peaks of the mortal world, where the air was thin and the earth seemed to touch the heavens. There, atop Mount Kailash in Tibet, lay ice that had been untouched for millions of years, a cold so deep and pure that it could freeze even the mightiest of fires. It was this ice that Marduk would use to temper the dark flame blaze, to create something new, something that could protect the weak and challenge the powerful. The journey to Mount Kailash. Marduk descended from the divine realm, his form wrapped in a cloak of light so radiant that it illuminated the night sky. He crossed the boundaries of the worlds with ease, his presence unnoticed by the mortals below. His destination was the sacred mountain of Kailash, a place where the ancient energies of the earth converged, where the cold of the ice and snow had been preserved since the dawn of time. As Marduk approached Mount Kailash, the air grew colder, the wind sharper. The mountain rose before him like a monolith of ice and stone, its peaks hidden among the clouds. The snow that covered it was a blinding white, untouched by time or man. Marduk could feel the ancient power within the ice, a cold so deep that it seemed to reach into the very bones of the earth. With a gesture, Marduk commanded the ice to rise. The ground trembled as the ancient frost responded to his call, lifting from the mountain's summit in great sheets and spirals. The ice shimmered in the moonlight, glowing with a pale blue light that seemed to pulse with life. Marduk gathered the ice with his power, shaping it, binding it, until it formed a perfect sphere of pure, unbreakable cold. The dark flame blaze was summoned next. Marduk called it forth from the depths of the divine realm, where it had been contained since the battle with Tiamat. The flame roared to life, a swirling inferno of black and crimson, its heat so intense that it scorched the very air around it. The fire crackled with the energy of destruction, its flames dancing with a life of their own. Marduk brought the ice and fire together, his hands guiding the two opposing forces into a delicate balance. The ice hissed and crackled as it met the flames, but it did not melt. Instead, the two elements began to merge, their energies intertwining, creating something entirely new, a force that was both fire and ice, a power that could burn with the heat of 1,000 suns or freeze with the cold of 1,000,000 years. From this union, Marduk began to shape the three entities that would become his greatest creation. The birth of Ira. First, Marduk created Ira, a being with the form of a human, but with a power that far surpassed that of any mortal. Ira was born from the heart of the dark flame blaze, his body forged in the fire's intense heat, tempered by the ancient ice of Mount Kailash. His skin was as hard as steel, unbreakable, his muscles infused with the strength of the gods. His hair was dark as midnight, his eyes a deep, smoldering ember that held the light of the flames within them. But Ira was not merely a creature of strength. His form was perfect, his features handsome and chiseled, but there was an aura about him, an aura of mystery, of power barely contained. His presence was commanding, his movements fluid and controlled, as if every step, every gesture, was imbued with purpose. He was a being born of both fire and ice, a perfect balance of opposing forces. Marduk looked upon Ira, his creation, and saw that he had succeeded. Ira was neither god nor human, but something in between, a protector, a warrior, a being of immense power and unyielding will. "You are my son," Marduk said, his voice filled with pride. "A son who is neither god nor human, but who embodies the strength of both. Even the gods will bow before you." Ira bowed his head in acknowledgement, his eyes glowing with the fire that burned within him. But beneath the fire, there was also the cold of the ancient ice, a chill that tempered the heat, kept it in check. Ira was a being of balance, a creature who could harness the power of both elements, but who was also bound by the restraint that Marduk had imposed upon him. The Black Iron Horse. Next, Marduk turned his attention to the second creation, the Black Iron Horse. This horse was not of flesh and blood, but was forged from the same dark flame blaze and ancient ice that had created Ira. The horse's body was sleek and muscular, its form a perfect blend of power and grace. Its coat was as black as the deepest night, not a single white hair to be found. The horse's mane and tail were like streams of molten obsidian, flowing and shimmering with a dark light. But the Black Iron Horse was no ordinary steed. It was a creature of immense power, its body infused with the fire of the dark flame blaze. When it ran, its hooves left trails of fire in their wake, flames that could burn hotter than a dragon's breath. The horse's breath itself was fire, a searing inferno that could incinerate anything in its path. Yet, like Ira, the Black Iron Horse was also a creature of balance. Marduk had tempered the fire within it with the ice of Mount Kailash, giving the horse the ability to transform. At will, the Black Iron Horse could become a creature of ice, its fiery breath replaced by a cold so deep it could freeze the very air. Its body, once blazing with heat, would become as cold and unyielding as the ancient glaciers from which it had been forged. The Black Iron Horse was a perfect companion for Ira, a steed that could match his strength, his speed, and his power. It was a creature of both fire and ice, a being that could adapt to any situation, any battle. But like Ira, the horse's full power was locked by Marduk's will, its flames contained until the day when Ira would be ready to unleash them. The Blazefrost Celestial Sword. Finally, Marduk created the Blazefrost Celestial Sword, a weapon that would become the symbol of Ira's power. The sword was forged from the same fire and ice that had created Ira and the Black Iron Horse, its blade a perfect union of the two elements. The sword was long and slender, its edge razor-sharp, its surface shining with a light that was both blinding and beautiful. The Blazefrost Celestial Sword was not merely a weapon, it was a living entity, a blade that could breathe both fire and ice. When wielded by Ira, the sword could unleash a torrent of flames, a blaze so fierce that it could melt steel, incinerate armies, and turn the very earth to ash. But the sword could also call forth the cold of Mount Kailash, a chill so deep that it could freeze the air, shatter stone, and bring entire worlds to a standstill. The sword was unbreakable, its edge never dulling, its surface never rusting. It was a weapon that could withstand the power of the gods, a blade that could cut through anything, even the fabric of reality itself. But like Ira and the Black Iron Horse, the full power of the Blaze Frost Celestial Sword was locked by Marduk's will. For now, Ira could only harness the cold, the freezing power of the ice that had tempered the flame. Marduk placed the Blaze Frost Celestial Sword in Ira's hand, the weight of the blade feeling natural, as if it had always belonged to him. "This sword," Marduk said, his voice filled with reverence, "is the embodiment of your power. It is a symbol of your strength, your will, and your purpose. With it, you will protect the weak, challenge the powerful, and bring balance to the cosmos." Ira looked at the sword, its blade reflecting the light of the divine realm, and nodded. He could feel the power within it, the potential that lay dormant, waiting to be unleashed. But he also understood the restraint that Marduk had placed upon him, the reason why the flames were locked away. Ira was a being of balance, and until he was ready, until he had mastered both the fire and the ice, he would wield only a portion of his true power. The protector of the weak. With Ira, the Black Iron Horse, and the Blaze Frost Celestial Sword complete, Marduk knew that he had created something unique, something that could protect the cosmos from the forces of chaos. Ira was neither god nor human, but he was a protector, a warrior who would stand against the darkness and bring balance to the universe. Marduk spoke to Ira, his voice filled with the weight of his responsibility. "You are my son," he said, his tone solemn. "But you are also a protector, a guardian of the weak. The cosmos is vast, and there are forces at play that seek to disrupt the balance, to bring chaos and destruction. It is your duty to stand against them, to use your strength to protect those who cannot protect themselves." Ira nodded, his eyes burning with a quiet resolve. He understood his purpose, the reason for his existence. He was not a god, but he had the strength of one. He was not human, but he had the heart of one. He was a being of balance, a creature who could harness both the fire and the ice, and with that power, he would protect the weak, challenge the powerful, and bring order to the cosmos. But Marduk also knew that Ira's journey would not be an easy one. The forces of chaos were vast, and the influence of Tiamat still lingered in the shadows. There would be battles to fight, enemies to face, and challenges that would test Ira's strength and resolve. But Marduk had faith in his creation, in the balance that he had instilled within Ira. He knew that Ira would rise to the challenge, that he would unlock the full potential of his power when the time was right. The unleashing of the flames. Though Ira could only wield the cold of the ancient ice for now, Marduk knew that the day would come when he would need to unleash the full power of the dark flame blaze. The flames were locked away, contained by Marduk's will, but they were not extinguished. They burned within Ira, within the Black Iron Horse, and within the Blaze Frost Celestial Sword, waiting for the moment when they would be unleashed. Marduk spoke to Ira, his voice filled with a quiet warning. "There will come a time," he said, "when the balance will be threatened, when the forces of chaos will rise once more. On that day, you will need to unlock the full power of the flames, to unleash the fire that burns within you. But until that day comes, you must learn to master the cold, to wield the power of the ice that tempers the flame." Ira nodded, understanding the gravity of Marduk's words. He could feel the flames within him, the fire that burned with a fierce intensity, but he also felt the cold, the chill that tempered the heat and kept it in check. He knew that his journey would be one of balance, of learning to control both elements, to harness their power without being consumed by them. And so, Ira began his journey, with the Black Iron Horse by his side and the Blaze Frost Celestial Sword in his hand. He rode through the cosmos, a protector of the weak, a challenger of the powerful, a being of immense strength and unyielding will. The flames within him remained locked, their power dormant, but he knew that one day, when the time was right, he would unleash them. And on that day, the cosmos would tremble before his power, and even the gods would bow before him. For now, Ira rode through the night, his presence a beacon of hope in a cosmos fraught with darkness. The cold of Mount Kailash guided him, kept him focused, kept him in balance. And as he rode, the Black Iron Horse's hooves leaving trails of frost in their wake, Ira knew that his journey had only just begun. The cosmos was vast, and the forces of chaos were many, but he was ready to face them, to protect the weak, and to bring balance to the universe. And as Marduk watched his creation ride into the night, he knew that he had done what was necessary to protect the cosmos. Ira was his greatest creation, a being of balance, a protector of the weak, and a warrior who would stand against the forces of chaos. The flames were locked, the power contained, but Marduk knew that when the time came, Ira would be ready to unleash them, to harness the full power of the dark flame blaze, and to bring order to a cosmos that was ever on the brink of chaos.